Students and young people have dominated the narrative of the demonstrations in Hong Kong, but a counter message has also emerged. A growing number of young Chinese nationals living both at home and abroad have voiced their emphatic support for the government and police, calling for an end to the hostilities which have plagued Hong Kong. Recently, thousands of overseas Chinese students have taken to the streets to show their support of their country. How strongly are such feelings shared by their peers at home and abroad? Why are they so patriotic? A quality that has almost a negative connotation now in many Western countries. Joining me for the discussion in the studio are Timothy Lin, Chief Editor of College Daily, an online publication focusing on international education, and Liu Yunyun, Assistant Executive Editor and Chief Commentator at Beijing Review. Welcome to The Point. I just want to point out this survey, which was reported by CGTN, which found that in 2018, according to the survey jointly conducted by China Youth Daily and the Communist Youth League of China, show that Chinese youth possess a high degree of national identity. An overwhelming 96% of the respondents expressed that they often feel proud of China's achievements, while 93% believe the country is moving in the right direction. And then when asked how they feel about the future, a whopping three-quarters say they're either very optimistic or reasonably optimistic. And when they're asked of their opinion on China, 80% said China is at its historical best or not perfect, but always improving. So if you compare these numbers to what you see in Japan, for instance, or what you see in India, similar, of course, not exactly the same surveys, but similar statistics, you'll find a very big difference. I want to start by asking Yunyun this question. Exactly what makes Chinese young people so optimistic about the situation of their country?
Well, they're experiencing changes every day. They have, when we are seeing the high-speed railways being built, and when we're seeing skyscrapers, shut up in our homes, cities, and when we see our cities become more beautiful and see our villages being turned out into this beautiful urban areas, and we feel proud. And we feel proud because we come from
when you say we, you mean the young people or the Chinese people in general?
Well, I think I belong to the young people, even though I will march into my 40s. But still, I mean, I used to live in this backward village where, we barely have electricity and we don't have, so much material support. But when we witness all those changes in China, and we feel that China is moving in the right direction, and now we're having all those material well-beings, and we feel fulfilled.
Basically, this survey that I was talking about, it's a survey based on focus particularly on the Generation Z, which is some people call Gen Z, people born in the mid-1990s. And I actually kind of identify with what you say, because for people like us in the mid-40s, we also experience dramatic changes in China. So I know very well what you're talking about. But Timothy, from your experience, do you understand this kind of very bright prospect, very bright feelings that the Gen Z among the Chinese population are feeling about the future of their country?
One of very interesting things happening in these days is there's a lot of Chinese students studying abroad to take out the street and to avoid the protest against Hong Kong's issues. And they are all from very wealthy families in China. So they have really high living qualities. So when they move to the United States for their colleges, for their high school, they see a country without development. I graduated from
comparison.
Yeah, that's great in comparison. Yeah, I graduated from the university in Ohio 10 years ago. When I graduated, there's a road that is still in the construction. But when I come back to Ohio, 1 year ago, the road is still not complete. So they built one highway in 10 years, and they still didn't complete.
What's the situation in China?
In the situation is there's a lot of high railways building, and the new airport is building, and everybody is so impressed with China's development and so depressed about what's happening in United States. You know, there's
so the contrast makes them love their country even more. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, compared with their elder generations, for instance, those who were born in the 1970s or even early 1980s, do you see a difference that the feeling that the identity they have with their country is getting stronger as they are younger?
It's all about the comparison. For the elder people, so they'll compare their past and now and the present. Like my father, they live in the area, he born in the areas, he doesn't have any electricity, they really dark on the street, but now everything is fine in the city. But for the students who are really young, they compare China and the US and the other countries.
That makes them love their country even more, although they were born into abundant material.
Yeah, definitely. Just to compare with Beijing subway and the New York subway.
That's very interesting. Yunyun, is that what you felt and what you observe as well?
Well, I think, compared with the older generation, like my parents' generation, one interesting anecdote of my parents is that they will take 6 hours from our home in far north of Beijing and to visit Memorial Hall of Chairman Mao, like every time when they're in Beijing. I'm like, why do you go to Chairman Mao's memorial like every time? And they're saying, like, my parents are like, we are the worst generation in China. After I was born, we have a 3-year starvation period, and when we're going to school, and there's a cultural revolution, and when we want to have more babies, more children, we have one-child policy.
That was your parents' generation.
Right, and then when we're going, finally we have a stable job, and then I was laid off as millions of Chinese state-owned employees. I came from the worst generation in China. I'm like, why do you go to Chairman Mao's Memorial Hall every time? And she said, I believe in the party. It won't let us down, and we just follow it. And then we believe that someday our lives will become better.
This leads me to a very interesting question, because a lot of people in the West are saying, look, we are not against the Chinese people, we're only against the Chinese state. They make a very big distinction between the Chinese people and the Chinese state. Do you understand that kind of feeling, and how does that make you feel? How do you react to that?
One of the very interesting stories I can tell is one of my professors always said, why you love your country, why you love your government maybe do something bad, but you always love it. Then I said, you don't know China at all. You don't know China at all. There's a phrase in Chinese, 家国. There's a family and a nation together. All back to the 2,000 years in Chinese history. We always combine with the state and the family together. If there is a state, we have a family. If there is no state, if we are in China in separate or in breaking parts, there's no family at all. So we're going to have the disasters together. So that's why we put the state and the family together. I love my family and I love my country.
Can I jump on in?
Sure.
Because always I would feel offended when people are distinguishing state, and which is, state is bad and people is good. I'm like, well, like the Chinese state-owned enterprises are bad, and the Chinese, state-owned media houses are, not reporting the truth.
Well, like, tell us about it.
The thing is, you know what? How to judge a company, whether it is good or it is bad? I mean, it's because whether it provides jobs, whether it pays taxes, whether it, honors
security,
brings security, safety to the community, and whether it honors its commitment to corporate social responsibilities. And that's the way you judge a government, you judge an enterprises. Well, when we're talking about media, how to judge a media is because whether this media is reporting truth, whether the media is reporting the truth to the people,
being responsible,
being responsible and reliable, and that is how you judge media, not by whether it is state or not. So that's why I always get offended, get angry.
This word offended, I feel that there is a great sense of indignation among a lot of Chinese people, especially a lot of young Chinese people, especially when they go and study, the sense of, being misunderstood.
Yes.
Whenever they say something in support of their country, they're being attacked, or they will be said, you have been brainwashed, or you have been manipulated. Is that how you feel as well, Tim, that maybe that sense of indignation propels them become even more patriotic?
Well, definitely the students study abroad, especially in the United States, the Chinese students always feel insulted by such words like that. You are brainwashed, you are misguided by the government, you are like that. I am the man with logic. I can tell what is good and what is bad. And you are insulting me with this kind of a phrase, and you are brainwashed. I'm a nuts. Yeah, something like that. I'm taking the undergrad degrees in MIT and Harvard. I'm brainwashed. You are insulting the Harvard degree at all. So when the professors and the students sometimes say, "Oh, go back to your countries, go back to China. You are brainwashed. You are misleading," they just feel so deplorable, these guys.
Another thing, as I mentioned in the leading, the word patriotism, the feeling of patriotism, it almost has a negative connotation. It's like when young people in some countries, you know, in the UK, for instance, I was just talking to my foreign editor, they say if you say you're patriotic, it's almost like, you know, you are not critical, you're not independent, you're not, you know, you are somehow, it's a negative feeling. How do the Chinese people feel about this word?
Well, you mentioned critical of the government. I mean, it's very easy to be critical, but it's very hard and a million times harder to be constructive. When you offer criticism, everybody can be an expert in that. The thing is, how would you build your country? How would you contribute to this nation? This is a much harder place. And as a joke, I would always tell my friends, do not divorce. Do not get a new wife. Do not get a new husband. You will fight eventually when the passion goes away.
What should they do? Just stick with
each other and
stick with the ones that they're not happy with?
Yes, and
eventually
then find a happy ending.
Eventually it can work.
You know, just figure a way out for both of you. So we need to be together. We need to be stronger together. So I think easy to be critical, yes, but to be constructive is even more harder.
Yeah, Tim.
Well, actually, I learned the word patriotism by American people. When I moved to America to have the study there, I learned patriotism by American people. Like when they have the football games, you know, American football games, they have the national anthem together, and they always stand it. They have national flag. Sometimes the bombers, the stealth bombers, fly by, and sometimes they have a demonstration with the veterans,
but if
the
you
soldiers.
love China, but if you're patriotic about China, you have been brainwashed.
Yeah,
you're
definitely.
under manipulation.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
patriotism is not a word for the Chinese, I guess, in many people's eyes. That's very unfortunate, but we'll keep talking about it. Many thanks to Timothy Lin, Chief Editor of College Daily, and Liu Yunyun from Beijing Review.
Thank you.
With that, thank you. With that, we're going to come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle The Point with LX. By the way, my Twitter account has not been shut down. And you can also go on YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You got the point.